Daddy and Tournament Pro, Don McDowell.
All righty, we're back. As promised, the AG for State 48, Mark Brnovich, is in the house. Woo! What's happening, brother?
That's a lot of energy, John, for this early in the morning.
Boy, it's a sugar buzz with the maple bars. Greg always brings maple bars from Bowls and Donuts. Oh, my God.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, those things look mighty good.
On.
But you told me I had to finish the interview before I could have anything to eat. So
Yeah, good deal. Well, I appreciate you coming down. I know you're a busy guy. First of all, how's the campaign for your Senate run going?
It's going great. I mean, it's tough. As you know, Don, I've got a full-time job being the Attorney General of this great state.
You're doing a good job.
It seems like every single day I'm in some major battle or lawsuit with the Biden administration. I mean, just last week he's going to sue us. I'm going to be in court.
I saw that. Yeah.
Arizona's laws that require proof of citizenship. We were also in court last week defending our life bills here, and the left and Planned Parenthood tried to undermine those. And my goodness, I argued at the Supreme Court earlier this year on an immigration case. So there's all this stuff going on in the office. We're the state's most important law firm. We're involved in every major case against the federal government, all these state issues. And then, on the side, I'm running for the U.S. Senate.
There you go.
And so, look, it's tough, but this is what I tell people all the time. As you know, Don, you and I've talked about this. Look, I'm an Arizonan, and I think it's important to have an Arizonan representing us in the U.S. Senate. You have Mark Kelly, who votes, we see commercials. He votes with Chuck Schumer 97% of the time. But what I remind people, that Mark Kelly votes with Bernie Sanders 90% of the time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely he does.
That's 9 out of 10 times. I mean, my goodness, no one agrees with their spouse 9 out of 10 times. I mean, so it's crazy. He doesn't represent Arizona values, and it's important. As you know, I've run twice statewide. I've been outspent every time. I'm a public school kid. I'm a first-generation American. So I work my butt off, and no one's going to outwork me. And so, look, we're in a good spot, but it's tough. I mean, the reality is, and people listening know, there's an out-of-state California billionaire that's supporting some guy, and they're spending a boatload of money. And so, that presents its own challenges. But look, I've got the endorsements of the great one, Mark Levin, and the GOAT, Sean Hannity.
Yep.
And people know who I am. And with everything going on, it's important to have a real Arizonan taking on Mark Kelly.
All right, here's what I want you to tell the listeners. I know you. I know your background. We're good friends. Right now you're talking to 750,000 votes on the hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation users. Plus, the numbers on the veteran side. And we rallied these guys around you. Tell us about Mark. Who's Mark?
Okay, well, Mark Brnovich is a first-generation American, and my parents lived through World War II. They lived through communism, and I always tell people that when your family has not just studied history but lived it, you have this unique appreciation for how fragile, freedom really is. As Ronald Reagan used to remind us, it's never more than one generation away for extinction. It's got to be fought for. And I tell people that because that's why you have to understand why I'm so passionate about federalism, freedom, and faith.
Absolutely.
And that's the prism I see things through. And that's why, whether it was being a gang prosecutor here, whether it was serving our country as a judge advocate general in the Army National Guard and the Army Reserve here, whether it was being, the state director of gaming, and now as AG. I never ran for office, I ran for AG. But I always said, when you're the government, you're always held to a higher standard. And I'm a big believer. When I ran, I said, I'm going to fight for individual liberty, economic freedom, and, against the overreach of the federal government. And I know especially for your listeners, people out there, remember, I'm a guy that understands Arizona. I've been turkey hunting on the Kaibab. I've gone up to the rim and, hunted. I fished. And so it's important to have someone that understands that. And that's
exactly.
That's why, for example, we led the effort of the states to oppose New York's gun laws. So we were there. We were the one that led the charge against New York gun laws, questioning the constitutionality of that. And the irony, John, it's not funny, but I do that, and then you get the far left of the Arizona Republic writing nasty columns like, why is Brnovich involved in these cases? And it's like, well, because our constitutional rights, what the Supreme Court does, affects all of us.
They'll be out of business by midterm.
They affect us, God willing. They're so nasty. The Republic. And I used to deliver it as a paper boy. I've been working my entire life. I delivered the Republic as a paper boy.
Yeah, boy.
My goodness, I've told folks that I wish the papers were that thin when I was a paper boy, because I wouldn't have had to make so many like trips back to the paper station on Wednesday and Sunday, because there ain't nothing in it now, man. There's definitely no substance. But anyway, so whether it's the New York gun laws, I made sure that in fact just 2 years ago we represented the Game and Fish Department to make sure we went to court to defend Arizona's laws that would allow motorized vehicles, and when up in the Kaibab when folks were hunting elk, and there's the list of cases goes on and on. We opposed, for example, California's magazine capacity ban, because once you allow government to start infringing our Second Amendment rights anywhere, it's a threat to all of us. So I have been there. So a lot of times people will talk or they'll run these commercials by their billionaire buddies or whatever. But what have people actually done? And that's the thing, Don. I have been there. I mean, I have been there when it comes to making sure that we are pushing back against federal overreach, securing our border, but especially in light, with your audience, when it comes to the Second Amendment, I understand it on a fundamental level. And I've said this before, that any government's big enough to give you everything is big enough to take it away. And any government that thinks that you as a citizen have to beg their permission to exercise your Second Amendment rights does not understand what being a citizen is, and they don't understand what rights are. And that's why I have made sure I've been there fighting to protect our Second Amendment rights and to protect our ability to hunt and fish in the state.
Okay.
Well, Don, this is the first thing I said when Russia invaded Ukraine was, it shows, it's Exhibit A for why you need to be, you need to have a strong national defense, secure borders, and you need to make sure you're energy independent. And it really was a sad irony when Ukraine was invaded. Literally, they were like trying to hand out guns to people and try to train people how to load a gun, and that becomes a fundamental.
They obviously didn't get that in 2014.
Well, it's just vigilance. We have to be vigilant, because it's what the left does is, and especially we're seeing this now with the Biden administration, is they are trying to. Sorry, Don, you just distracted me with the patch.
Gotcha.
Oh gosh, this is really funny. Actually,
yeah, you can put that on your jacket.
We can't say that on the air, can we?
No.
But let's go, Brandon. Right? That's what you were telling me there.
Yeah.
But
there's a whole club.
No, but anyway, I'm sorry. I go off on tangents.
Gotcha.
It's like a hunting camp, right? We're going off on tangents here, just without the beer. But I one of the things that I tell people all the time, even now. So as you know, we're involved, and we've sued Joe Biden administration over failure to build a wall. I personally argued the case at the U.S. Supreme Court of the public charge rule, where they're trying to give welfare benefits to people that don't have legal status. We have a lawsuit right now where no one's talking about this one. The Biden administration wants to allow DHS to grant asylum to people now instead of immigration judges. So they're doing all these things, and everyone knows the numbers, massive, more than 3 million people since he's been president. They've incentivized and decriminalized it. And so sometimes people ask me, they're like, oh my gosh, well, you're first generation American. You're being hypocritical. And I said, no. I understand this issue fully. The reason why people want to come to this country and why it's so great is we're not a country founded on a common religion. We don't have a common ethnic identity like they do in places like China. We don't have a king or a queen that kind of binds us together. We have a creed, and it's all based on this notion that we all have God-given rights that come from our Creator, not from any government, and that this Constitution is our sacred document. And that's kind of the deal. And so everyone that assimilates to this country, immigrants, understand that the rule of law means, and this system of checks and balances, that all of us, whoever we are, have a chance to get ahead. And literally, you can go from one generation speaking a foreign language in your house like I did, and I'm still proud of my culture and background. You go from one generation speaking Serbo-Croatian to being a public school kid and going to Desert Cove Elementary and Shadow Mountain High School here, and literally being the state's chief law enforcement officer arguing against the President of the United States to a Supreme Court. And that's the American dream. And what makes that all common is that consistency and certainty under the rule of law. And so people that are fleeing, these socialist third world countries, they understand that better than anyone. I don't begrudge anyone that wants to come here, but you cannot have anarchy and chaos. You cannot allow the cartels to to take operational control, because it undermines the very reason why people want to come here. Think about this, guys. I mean, the Soviet Union had a constitution that guaranteed all sorts of rights, the right to protest, the media, everything but maybe the right to religion. I mean, other than that, it guaranteed everything. Didn't mean anything. They were words on paper because a group of apparatchiks in the Politburo decided which benefits went to what people and who got to go to school. And when you obeyed the government, then you got rights and privileges.
Yeah.
And Venezuela was the most prosperous country in South America. And then Hugo Chavez, this communist dictator, came around, started arbitrarily violating people's rights, undermined an independent judiciary, and now it's one of the worst countries in South America.
Yeah, and now Biden's buying fuel from Maduro down there. I mean,
it's crazy, isn't it? We were energy independent. I mean, it's and now we're buying oil. We're begging. We're begging communist dictators and mullahs in Iran.
He's a state sponsor of terrorism right there.
We're begging the Iranians and Venezuela to buy oil.
I don't get it. As you know, I'm a Fox News listener. You did such a great. You and Jason Chaffetz do such a fine tag team, man. You guys are good. And Hannity, and he does a good job too. But moving through that, you get to D.C. What's your first act as our new senator?
Well, I think the first and most important thing is to start saying no when it comes to a lot of these bills and bloated government.
Thank you.
And and I've said to people that what I'm going to do is we have more than 100,000 Americans died last year as a result of the drug crisis in this country. As a prosecutor,
China and Mexico.
Well, China sends the precursor chemicals. Mexico's making the fentanyl, and I've seen.
And Joe lets them in.
And I've seen the price of a fentanyl pill, the street value, go from $20 a pill down to $5 just in the last year.
Because it's flooded market.
It's because the market's being flooded.
Yep.
And so when I see that as a father, as a parent, I sit there and I think, my God, people's kids are going to die. Someone's niece, nephew, son, daughter are going to die as a result of this. And you may be at a party. Someone may slip you something. You may think you're taking, and now there's knockoff. Sometimes they make them look like over-the-counter medication.
Sure they do.
And so it's a really, really dangerous game of Russian roulette. And so when I see that, I've said, I'm not going to vote for any nominee, any judge, any cabinet official until they secure the border. And what I would do is places like Pima County where overdose, drug deaths are now the number one cause of deaths of young folks. Every day we need to read off the people that are dying in Arizona as a result of Biden's policies. Now, that being said, we need to make sure that we do everything we can. And if that means impeaching people like Mayorkas, that's what we have to do.
Absolutely.
We have to have hearings and stuff. But one of the things that I think that's so important in the short run is we do need to make sure we're energy independent. We were just alluding this a little bit ago. But, we were part of the coalition that sued the EPA over their carbon rules. And we just saw a Supreme Court case on that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times folks don't appreciate. So what the left has done is they've created this regulatory state, and then all these alphabet soup agencies like the EPA, they promulgate all these rules and regulations, and they're trying to use it to eliminate the fossil fuel industry. And so when we see, once again, supply and demand, when Biden administration cancels pipelines, they've canceled offshore auction and leases for drilling and exploration. Right. They're doing all these mandates, these carbon rules. What ends up happening is you get less oil, less production, which means we have to rely on these third world dictators.
Yep.
And then as the price of oil goes up and gas goes up, everything from plastics to rubber, all these
everything
other things
goes up.
And then of course it costs more to deliver the goods to the grocery store. And I'm telling you right now, Don, and I've been talking about this, is that one of the things about the war in Ukraine is, like ferrous metals and fertilizers, all these things that come from that part of the world. Right. So the price of agriculture
there's 25
goods,
million tons of wheat sitting there going to waste.
And the price of oil, price of fertilizer is going up. So this fall, we're going to have less crop production, and food prices are going to go up. It is this is a recipe for disaster. And I've tried to explain to my kids, and Jimmy Carter, I was a kid growing up, and I was trying to explain to them, I was like, there was double-digit interest rates and double-digit inflation. They're like, well, how can that be? And I was like, you have no idea. I mean, thank God for Ronald Reagan. But
I've had the same conversation, and this year there's 435 seats that are
up for election. Hopefully that's going to go at midterm. Mark, one of the things I want to thank you for, as you know, we've been fighting for conservation in Arizona prior to Donald Trump. During the Trump years, we made some really, really good progress. that's going to hell in a handbasket. And about a year and a half, 2 years ago, you were on with Sean Hannity and talked about, you're the first, besides me, and you're stealing my stuff, and thank you for doing that. You started talking about southern Arizona in our environment and the condition of our habitat. And thank you so much, and I know you're really keyed in on that. And we're going to war against the antis and in the Mayorkas and all the other stuff that's just trash in the lower half of the state.
Well, Don, we in 2016, so this is the other thing, too. All these people, this is why people hate politicians, is they come around every 2, 4, 6 years and say stuff, but what have they actually done? And I'm glad you brought this up, because even back in 2016, we were part of a coalition that fought against, the federal government and Fish and Wildlife trying to expand, their reach and taking control of lands in Arizona. And so, we fought against the waterways of the U.S. during the Obama administration, where they tried to use that in order to, once again, gain control of, Arizona land, especially in rural Arizona. And so this is why we need a fighter. And look, I don't like politics, you know that. I'm my own kind of guy. But we are at this critical moment in our state's history, and we need people that are willing to stand up and fight. And this is the thing I tell folks all the time, is that Ronald Reagan used to say, if someone agrees with you 7 out of 10 times, they're not your enemy, they're your friend. And I used to always say the Brnovich caveat is that 10 out of 10 times if someone agrees with you, they're not your friend, they're surely not your kids, no. But they're a psychiatrist, someone you're paying, right? Because no one agrees with anyone all the time.
Right.
And one of my daughters said, no, Dad, what you need to remind folks is that 10 out of 10 times, even no one agrees with anyone, but 10 out of 10 times people know where you stand, why you take the positions you've taken, and you have been consistent about protecting the most vulnerable, pushing back against federal overreach, and protecting our constitutional rights. Whether I was at the Goldwater Institute or, as the Attorney General or as a young prosecutor, that's what I've been doing my whole career. So there's not some sort of, like, oh my gosh, what's he going to do or not do? I mean, it's there. I mean, look, you're mentioning Hannity earlier, but 2004, I wrote a piece when I was at the Goldwater Institute in National Review on gas pricing. And 2004, I was arguing for eliminating the federal gas tax, making sure that we had more exploration, eliminating some of these fuel mandates and some of these EPA regulations.
Yeah.
And so now, when I'm in the U.S. Senate, I'm going to have an opportunity to actually do something about a lot of the things that I've been fighting for on a state level. Now we can address on the federal level.
Well, one has to do with the other. You're going to be doing two things at the same time.
Well, and don't forget, Don, that when the Soviet Union collapsed, communism didn't die. All those people just ended up in the environmental movement. Because the environmental movement is all about controlling our lives. Yeah. And, the Biden administration, one of the lawsuits we had was we sued them over the COVID relief bill. We're obviously spending money we can't afford, but they don't want if you took COVID money as a state, you can't cut taxes. So we sued Joe Biden over that. We believe it violated the 9th, 10th Amendments. And I always ask people, why is that Joe Biden can send out stimulus checks, federal government can, but they don't want the state of Arizona cutting taxes?
Exactly.
It's because of control.
Yeah.
We're seeing this, the AOC, the squad, Mark Kelly, Joe Biden, they want us to be dependent on Washington, D.C. to exercise our economic livelihood and our individual rights, and that's why I'm stepping in to fight them.
God love you. Okay, we got about a minute to wrap this up. We're going to fight hard for you.
Brno for AZ. I'm so bad at this, Don. Brnoforaz.com, BRNOFORAZ.com. People can go there. They can help us out. They can learn more about the campaign. Once again, we need a principled Arizonan that understands the Constitution and that's a fighter that stood in the breach and is willing to stand up for our values and protect our rights. That's
what I'm saying. It's time to stand and fight, ladies and gentlemen, and Mark's a fighter. We got to get out of here. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks, brother.
We're going to stump for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
Don McDowell.
Greg Kruger.
I'm Mark Brnovich.
And this is Fox Sports 910. We'll be back next week.